Hey, the higher view. We are back today. Happy Friday. End of the week. Yay, Friday. We have Kerri Pomarolli here with us, who is a comedian. And it's already been rather funny because, like the rest of the week, we have had our fair share of tech challenges. We either laugh or cry, right? So I'm going to choose to laugh today because it's the last day of the week. So we don't have to deal with this Saturday and Sunday. We do have our round table tonight. Don't forget about that. It's going to be amazing. We have a couple of guests on there for, we're continuing our conversation around racial reconciliation. And so let's just pray that we don't have tech challenges tonight too. Anyway, so Julie, why don't you introduce Kerri for everybody that's not familiar with her, and we're going to wing it again.
Yes, absolutely. Kerri and I connected through someone who suggested that we have her on our show. So we just recently connected, and I've had a chance just to watch some of her videos and see what she's doing. And you guys are in for a real treat. I'm going to read to you a little bit about her background. So she's a stand-up comedian, author, actress, and supermodel wannabe. She has been on The Tonight Show 29 times, General Hospital, Young and the Restless, Comedy Central, and many more. She's excited to be a writer for the Hallmark Channel as well. And she's a screenwriter and works in television, writing, and lives with her two comedy inspirations, Lucy and Ruby, in California. So she's been on Jay Leno, Carol Channing. This woman has been around the block. So it's really neat to have you on today, Kerri. You know, Friday is our day that we focus on arts, entertainment, and media and how we can infiltrate kingdom into that culture. So why don't you share with the listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself and how you got started doing what you're doing today?
Oh my goodness. How long do you have? I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that age where people are asking me questions like, will you tell the next generation how you made it? And I was like, I just didn't die. I think that was the secret to surviving in Hollywood. Waking up today was a victory. But I moved to LA when I was 22 with a minivan where my mom and dad dropped me off with a map, like a real map, millennials, like with a piece of paper and a magic marker, like a magic marker. My dad was like, this is Sunset Boulevard. And I'm crying, and they drove back to Georgia, and I sink or swim. And I started working 3 jobs. It was like the best of times and the worst of times. And wow. I was a children's party entertainer. I was a telemarketer for a dating service. I was an intern at a production company. I was going on auditions, and I was trying to marry Matt Damon actively. And just because you have to goal set, you have to goal set. You have to have your intentions out there. Academy Award, marry Matt Damon. And God was like, well, thank you, Kerri, for the suggestion. That's a great plan. And I was like, don't worry, God, when I win my Academy Award, I'll say your name, And so I was working on soap operas, General Hospital, and Young and the Restless, a lot of really quality, godly programming. And I think I started doing comedy after I was doing a lot of sketch comedy with the Second City improv group and Groundlings. And I was very blessed. I got to work with Jay Leno a lot for sketch comedy on his show. That was kind of a big break. And then stand-up sort of evolved when my personal life and my professional life started to mesh for the first time. I really was cognizant of the choices I was making on stage as a performer, needing personally to match up to the evolution of my personal faith journey. Mm-hmm. And so doing a topless scene with Charlie Sheen did not seem to, even though my agent was like, you should do it. He's fantastic. He's going places. You should hook up with Charlie Sheen. Mind you, this was like 2002. So Denise Richards took the bullet on that one. But and then through that evolution and prayer, stand-up comedy came. It wasn't a conscious decision of I'm going to do stand-up comedy. It was just like, I'm a control freak and I need to write my own material so I don't get in trouble with my mother. And so I started doing stand-up comedy in the early 2000s, toured with Sherry Shepherd, got to work with amazing people, just everybody, just so many people took me under their wing, and it took off like a bullet. And so that was 14 years ago. And then that evolved into writing books, and I'm a writer for the Hallmark Channel, and like just a lot of curves in the journey, and a huge curve right now to be in this pandemic and being, you know, flexible. I think we all need to learn how to be flexible and pliable with our life choices and how we're supposed to do things, you know.
Well, it sounds really like flexible and pliable is probably your MO. You know, you're sitting here not taught. There was no direct line, you know, in this journey. You're like, I went here and I went there, and it just kind of evolved, and this person and that person. So that's kind of what I'm hearing really overall, is to remain flexible.
I think that's a huge key, Melissa, is that it's never a straight line to, and what is success? You know, my friend Angela Hoover, she's a very successful person on paper, but you know, she's a mom, and we're, you know, as successful as we may look, we're still on the phone going, should I sell fruit on the freeway? Like, should I just like get eggs and like sell fruit? And what should I do with my life? And she says, Carrie, we get to wake up every day and make a living with our dreams. And I don't know, I think it's 1% of people that can say that. And I count myself really humbled that God has allowed me to do this. And especially with this pandemic, I'm willing to make a turn. I always go back to him and say, I'm willing to make a turn if that's what you desire of me, because I never want to hold on too tight.
Right. So speaking of the pandemic, how has that impacted and affected what you do?
Well, I've learned how to do virtual comedy with nobody laughing at me. So that's really fun. It's like a comic's dream to do a show for 5,000 people and you can't see any reactions. Maybe you see them go like this, you know, or like if I'm lucky, but you know, it's, I've been hosting virtual comedy shows, fundraisers from my living room. I bought a house in LA right before the pandemic. And I don't know if you guys know about Los Angeles. When you buy a house in LA, you have to give them a kidney and your firstborn. Right. And so I literally moved in March 6th, and then a worldwide pandemic like broke out. And it was like, but Lord, I was going to redo my bathroom. Like what, you know?
Wow.
So it's been a crazy journey. I've been here with my workers because I would like a toilet. That was something I really wanted in a house.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing renovations. I've been doing renovations in my house and hanging out with my worker crew and just really trying to strategize, because I didn't know when things were going to open up, and they really need to open up for me to have a job. So it's just being on point and ready for what the fall may bring. I had hoped it was summer, but now it's looking more like September.
Yeah.
And trying to breathe, you know, like trying to breathe and do things with my kids that I normally don't do. We're binge watching inappropriate shows, you know, like The Office, all 8 seasons. It's really inspiring.
You watch Supergirl, Carrie. That's one of my daughter's on Supergirl right now.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. It's intense sometimes. But so were you growing up as a little girl, were you kind of the class clown and kind of the one that threw out jokes and just had fun? Or where did this comedic kind of personality come from?
I grew up in Detroit at a little tiny private Christian school that bussed in inner city Detroit kids. And they taught me your mama jokes in first grade. And so I feel that was very formative to my comedy upbringing. And I also think that comedy is a great defense mechanism. So if you ever meet somebody who's funny, they probably were not a cheerleader. Like they probably were not captain of the football team. You know what I mean? We probably had to work a little harder to make people like us, you know? And so it just kind of was a thing that came naturally to me. And I used to get mad and fight with the boys, and they thought it was funny. And then the other girls would cry and they wouldn't pick on them because I was boring. And then I realized that comedy comes from anger and angst. So now I get mad and people give me money, which is great.
And you make people laugh, which releases those good endorphins. You know,
hey, you guys, can I ask you a quick question? Is there a way you guys could turn like the volume up? I'm having like, is there a way I can turn my volume up so I can hear you guys a little bit better?
You should have a speaker. Check your speaker settings.
Oh.
Uh-oh. There she goes.
She'll be back. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. I shouldn't have I don't have waterproof eyeliner or mascara today. I'm wishing I would.
I can see you wiping your eyes.
Where did we leave off? I just did a story on YouTube, a video series called Diary of a Mad Third Grader. And I had a very torrid affair with Anthony Policello in third grade, and I wrote about it. I mean, Anthony doesn't know that we had this affair, like he wasn't involved. But and the thing is, Anthony Policello is on Facebook, and I'm just questioning my audience every time I do these videos. Should we find him? I mean, do you think he would want to know?
Let's make that our mission.
I mean, he's single. I'm single. I'm just saying. I'm just putting
this is the dating show with Carrie now.
Like he has all his hair.
And like,
I mean,
put an invite on our StreamYard and just pop him in here.
I'm sure he would be like, "That's not weird at all. That's not even creepy."
Of course not. Totally. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Carrie, do you have a creative process, or does this just come back? I mean, obviously, there's a degree of it comes naturally, but do you have a process where you brainstorm and you?
Yeah. My kids say something stupid and I write it down, and then I call friends on the phone and I tell them a story, and if they laugh loudly, I know it will work, and then I'll be like, "Tell me if you think this is funny," and I'll be like, "This happened." You know what I mean? Like we went to school to pick up my 8-year-old, and the teacher said she ate her earthquake kit and all the other kids' earthquake kit. And I was like, my kid ate canned tuna because she was that hungry. Like the teacher was like, maybe you should feed her, So, just life. Life is funny. I have a lot of notebooks that are just all around my house. I write notes in my very top secret process before a show. It's very fancy. I'll let you in on the secret of how I prepare. It's really exciting. I watch my own videos on YouTube. Is what I do. Backstage, like 5 minutes before I go on stage, I'm like, I should remind myself about my jokes, and then I watch my own show.
Hey, that's great, because a lot of people don't want to look at themselves and watch themselves. So
I don't like it, Julie. I don't think it's good. I just watch it to remind myself. Or else I'm going to go out there and talk about my grocery list if I don't remind myself of. But, a lot of it's on the fly, Rochelle. A lot of it, when you're in the moment, the most fun is to really be just in the moment at a stage and something happens, a phone rings or, something weird. It's the best when the power goes out. It's just like fun for me. It livens it up,
disappears off the show.
Sure. Oh, girl, if I had a nickel for every Zoom I've done where I'm just talking and I'm sharing my testimony, I'm crying, and there's like a black screen. I'm like, okay, are we doing Black Lives Matter? Like, what's happening? Are we, You're not alone, Melissa. You're not alone. It's happening to everybody.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. Yeah. Mine just happens to be on repeat this week, like right before you came on, because I think pretty much every day this week I'm that high D personality, so it's like 12 o'clock, I hit the button, bam, we're going live. Not once this week. And so like as the minutes go by and I'm getting all these pop-ups that StreamYard's gonna cancel,
I know
all this stuff, and I'm like, and I'm tweaking. And right before you came on, I'm like, we'll just rename this The Lake Show. Right?
Well, it's like I was doing a show, and it was a really big show. It was a virtual show. It was my first one. And they said 7:15, you're going to go on at 7:15. And I have my kids in place. I'm doing such comedy. It's like this, like really, I got to prep. They call me at like 6:55 and they're like, we started early. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm like, this is not appropriate.
Right.
So it makes me appreciate my job I have no tech. Like, just give me a mic. I don't even need a mic. Like, just get me on the stage. I've gone on stage in a wheelchair before. I've gone on stage where they've carried me, like passing a kidney stone. I'm not kidding. These are real stories. So technology to me is like a whole nother part of my act. Like, you just have to roll with it,
Mm-hmm. true. Well, it's so funny because I'm obviously I'm not the funny person, and you're sitting here, like making the comment that the funny person's probably not the cheerleader, blah blah blah. I was the cheerleader.
Of course you were, Melissa. I can tell that by looking at you.
Anyway, not sure how to take that, but we'll just.
You're beautiful. You are beautiful.
But it just makes it all these things that I'm like, yep, that's me. Yeah, okay, so that's me. Yeah, okay, yeah. So.
Well, my first book I ever wrote was called Guys Like Girls Named Jenny. And if you grew up in the 80s, like you get it. Like there was always a pretty girl named Jenny stealing my boyfriend and who had a tan, And so every time I meet somebody, it's not like Guys Like Girls Named Carrie. Like there's no book that's written,
You haven't written one yet, Kerri.
I have a whole book about my dating life, and we actually wrote a movie about it, and it's being shopped around. It's been optioned recently. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. Kind of hoping that me and my ex-boyfriends make it on screen, played by Matthew McConaughey. Just whatever.
There you go.
No awkward moments whatsoever. I love. So I saw that you wrote the book, The Mom's Night Out, in kind of correlation. Was it after the movie had come out?
No, same time. Partnered with them. Yep.
Wow. So did you guys partner on that together then?
Yeah. I hosted the red carpet. I got to meet everybody from the film. I was on the team, and I met Sean Astin, and he gave me the Goonie oath from the movie The Goonies, and it was very exciting. It was fun. I was part of the back team from the very beginning, so it was a great experience.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a fun movie. Well, you'll have to come to the Goonie house in Astoria, Oregon, if you haven't been.
Yes.
That's where I live. I live in Oregon, not in Astoria.
Did you see the Goonie reunion on did you see that they had a reunion with Josh Gad?
Yes, they did have the reunion at the Goonie house. Yeah.
Oh, I cried. I literally cried. It's like my childhood. I'm obsessed with the 80s. Like my kids, I don't let them watch movies past 1999. Like we watch. But see, kids are they're so politically correct. Like my 12-year-old, I let her watch Grease. It was like this big moment of coming of age. She's like, that was the dumbest movie I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, what? She goes, you're telling me I have to smoke a cigarette and wear leather to get a boy to like me? And I was like, no, you have to dance too.
You dance and sing and go on the beach.
Shoot, girl.
Yeah, because nobody sticks baby in a corner.
Yeah. She asked me if we could watch Dirty Dancing. I go, we're not quite ready for that. I don't know how to explain. I don't know. You can watch Pretty in Pink. And then she's like, why is she not with Ducky? I'm like, I asked myself that same question, Lucy.
Oh my gosh. I love
that
it.
era, though, did have like the best movies. I remember torturing my own children. I think they all know The Breakfast Club by Howard and all of those, right? The young Brat Pack is what they were referred to back then, but those were good movies. Now, I don't know.
So Kerri, I have a question. So how did you get to Hollywood? You said your parents drove you in a minivan and dropped you
minivan.
Here.
Where was your aspirations for that? I assume you did like theater and
Julie, kids like me come out of the womb needing attention. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if your mom's, when you have that weird one that's like always doing shows with like a sheet in the basement or, on the porch. I literally think that that's how I was born. And so from the time I was 5, was like, I'm going to Hollywood. And I was a theater kid. I did theater with adults from the time I was 10. I did youth theater. My parents were very, very supportive, but they said, you got to go to college. So I did that and majored in theater, which is very expensive waitress training. That was 4 years, 4 years of musical theater degree from University of Michigan. And then, and so it was, my friends were going to Broadway. A lot of my friends were going to do Broadway, and it was a major decision whether I wanted to go to that direction. But I felt that at that point, I wanted to go to LA. And so I had 2 friends that came with me, but I did a lot of theater. They were so good to me. They let me go to do international shows. My parents were just not rich or anything, and they made a lot of sacrifices. If a theater company wanted to hire me and, mom needed to travel, she was really willing to do that. Now, my mom is kind of funny because anytime I would enter like a pageant or a contest, she was like the opposite of Dance Mom. She had so much anxiety that she wouldn't go to the award ceremony because she's like, I'll cause a scene if my daughter doesn't win. Like she's like, you know, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is totally making me a dysfunctional comedian. But thank you. Thank you for all that pressure, Barbara. We really appreciate it.
Well, no, that's really interesting you share that because I have a only child and she's been performing since she was 18 months. She had her own mic, her own amp, you know, writing her own songs. And she's been in 5 productions and she just loves that. And when she was 6, she's like, Mom, my dream is to move to New York, be a Broadway actress and a fashion designer. And then I'm going to move to Paris and have my own boutique and have my own party car at 6. And I'm like, okay, just fly me over to Paris at some point. Like, I mean,
Julie, those kids get it done. Like those are the ones. And it's really funny because I have this nerdy kid who wants to be a Supreme Court justice. And so I don't know how to raise her. Like, I don't even know how to talk to her. And so it's really funny. But when you have
my house,
right. So like, if you have a performer kid, you got to let them go. You got to just do what you can because it will either flame out as she gets older and she'll do something else, or it'll get stronger and stronger to the point where she's willing to be dropped off in a minivan in New York. Like, and it'll be the greatest joy.
Exactly. Well, and so she wants to have a YouTube birthday party. I mean, her aspiration is to become the next YouTuber, the next Wengie, you know. And
how old is she? How old is she?
10. She's 10.
Okay, I have a 9-year-old, and she thinks she has a YouTube channel. She does YouTube videos. They're not real, but she thinks they're real, and I might maybe tell her they're real. And so I just put them on my Facebook.
Right? Yeah.
But she's like, it's Julie, when they start talking like YouTube in the middle of the day, like she wakes up in the morning and she goes, hi guys, it's Ruby. And I'm like, yeah, I know your name. Like, I'm your mom.
I kind of picked it up for you.
She's like, thanks for the likes, leave emojis. And I'm like, do you want breakfast? Like, seriously?
Oh my God.
Let me get my assistant over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Really.
I love that.
So, you know, that goes with that scripture, raise up a child in the way they should.
Yep.
Go.
And it's interesting, Melissa, because like my 12-year-old was sought after as a child actor mucho. Like she got cast in Academy Award winning movies. We turned them all down. We turned a lot of stuff down. And I just assumed her dad's a comedian, actor. We just assumed that would be Lucy's path in life. And she had the talent, like Julie, probably your daughter, just from a very young age. And then I realized pretty quickly that's not what God is opening the door for. And she doesn't have the desire to do it. So kids may be born with talent, but I'm so happy if she sings in the church choir and doesn't put herself through a life of rejection because show business is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I always tell kids your talents can be used in so many places. Yeah. It doesn't have to be on the Disney Channel, the way the world makes you think that that's what success is. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I was actually told by one of her agents, because my daughter was signed to an agency, that they would not pursue anything Disney or don't even go that direction. I was like, okay, we're shutting that down because it's like we as parents, we have to protect and guard our kids because we see what they're called. We see their talent, we see their anointing, but the timing, it has to be the right timing. So,
then as they get older, you have these conversations. You know, my 12-year-old talks like a 40-year-old. You know, and now we're having these. And and I'm so grateful that she wants to talk to me. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, but do you need to share that much? Because I can't. You know, it's just like, oh my gosh. And so, she's just conflicted about why do I have to date a Christian and like all these like philosophical questions and. Yeah. I'm like, man, I don't have the right. Can you call your teacher? Like, I don't.
She's an old soul in a little person's body.
She is so precocious. Yeah. And she's anointed. And I'm like, Lucy, you have a call in your life, like a serious call. She's like, I don't want it. I'm like, I don't care. Like you have a call to minister to people. You have a call to pray for the sick. You have a call. It's like supernatural gifting. She's prayed in miracles for people, like, you know, serious miracles, crazy miracles. And I'm like, you can't be with somebody who's not going to partner with you.
Right.
So I know that you don't understand it now, but just let me get this through your head at 12. And I'm so grateful for what I know now that I didn't know, so I can raise her in the way of speaking to her. I go, like, when we talk about her, I go, so that thought is either coming from the enemy or coming from God or coming from your flesh. Now, my mother and I never had those conversations. Still haven't. God bless her. You know, because my mother's that perfect Southern lady. She's 78. She's never drank alcohol. She's still a virgin. You know, she's just really. So, like, what do you talk about with that woman? You know what I mean?
No, that's so good. And I think, music for these young kids too, it infiltrates their mind. And my daughter was listening to this one song and it was like, I want to be away from the light or something, or I'm like, do you hear what you're saying? Like, you are inviting darkness to come in. Like, there's going to be a wrestle. We have to.
Julie, that's why you only let them listen to 80s. That's what I do. I think that George Michael has some very good faith lyrics. I will be your father figure. Put your tiny hand in mine. I'm just saying.
Right.
Don't you think
like Highway to Hell?
You know, we got it. Well, Highway to Hell is like a warning song, Melissa. It's like it's a prophetic warning. We're not going to take it. Is talking to Satan.
Right. Another brick in the wall. I mean, those.
That was definitely the Israelites marching around the walls of Jericho.
Yes.
Come on.
Right. Rebuilding of the wall from Nehemiah, for sure. Right.
Kids want to be relevant to their culture. So if, their friends listening to this and they're like, well, I've never heard of that, then they can get that kind of, well, what's wrong with you type thing. And so it's like, we as parents, we have that balance of blending cultures together, but being in the world and not of it type thing. Right.
And I constantly tell my kids, you are going to be the weird one. Like, and I told Lucy from the time she was 8 years old, I go, I'm going to tell you which one of your friends are going to be drinking in high school. I know who they are. Like, I already know. And now she's seeing them in the transgender world and all that. Yeah. And from the time she was 7, 8 years old, I go, what if somebody offers you a drink? She goes, I'll just tell them they're a big fat alcoholic and walk away. I'm like, fine. But now we're having more real conversations about this. And the friends that I told her that were not in the word and not in Christian homes are starting even at 12 to go. She's had a friend come out to her as gay, at 12 years old. And it's caused all these conversations about loving people, and not loving the lifestyle. And they're intense conversations that I never had. Wow. Never. And if we don't have them, somebody else is going to have them with them.
Right. That's the key. You so hit the nail on the head with that. Like, I have a funny feeling we were probably raised in the same era. And my mom was the same way. Not that she was innocent and a virgin. She just didn't talk to me.
Well, I mean, my mother is innocent till proven guilty. We have no tape. You know what I'm saying?
I won't even go there. So, I remember after I'd already moved out of the house, can't remember if this was after college or during college, came home, I'm sitting there at the kitchen. My mom's, doing her thing in the kitchen. And this is just me. I've always been the super transparent, just say whatever's on my mind. My mom was always like, la, 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 la. I'm not hearing it. And so I was sitting there and I was like, Mom, I have a question for you. And she's like, okay, honey. And she's cooking. And I'm like, how come you never talk to me about sex? And she's like, oh my God, and she turned around, she goes, well, I just figured you already knew all about it. I'm like, how? Mm-hmm. How does a child just already know all about it if the one that's supposed to be talking about it, doesn't talk to them about it? And so these conversations are critical. And I think especially in this age, because, the conversations I was having back then was more along the lines of, oh, Mom, guess what? I made my own beer bong and it holds 3 beers. I was that child. But now, my son, who we had in private school and then homeschooled, and then we decided, we moved to this nice little town, and we were going to let him try the public school because it was a small pre-collegiate type school. And very shortly later, he comes home with this question: Mom, what do you do if somebody writes you a note that they really like you and like you. And they were born a girl, but now they're a boy.
Wow.
And they're writing me this note. So does a girl like me or does a boy like me? I'm like, oh my dear
Right.
Jesus.
Wow.
I know.
You know, the freshman year in high school, he was literally like, oh my gosh. And then another boy that was a good friend of his came out gay and then kept hitting on him and wanting to come over here and stay the night and all this kind of stuff. And so we had to address that, you know? So I'm like, okay, so if this boy has a crush on you, is hitting on you, that would, and wanting to come over and stay the night, do you think I would allow a little girl to come over here and stay the night? And he's like, no, but he's a boy. Yeah, but, you know,
Wow.
he likes you, you know? And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you know, I didn't have to have, thank God I didn't have to have these kinds of conversations with my parents because my parents weren't having conversations.
Yeah.
But now my boys, all the way, my oldest is actually 25, started on the younger side, but he comes to me with just about everything, you know, because we had those conversations. There was
And sometimes they ask those questions where I'm mortified. Like and my daughter's like that. Like she's so open with me and I'm just grateful, but you just have to hide it and you have to act cool. Like, you know what you're talking about. But I mean, she just talks about sex well, she says the word sex, and I'm so conditioned from my Southern mother who doesn't even like go to the bathroom like ever. You know, it's just like, it's like there's so conservative upbringing, and my father was a Marine, and so she's just like, well, you know, it's like the scene in the movie when they were having sex, and I'm like, oh my God, stop it. But I hope that Melissa, I have the same conversations when it gets more real. You know, as she gets older, both of them as they get older.
You have to start them from, and you have to me anyway, my whole thing. And I'm still like the black sheep in my family. I'll talk about literally anything with anybody. And I've had to initiate those conversations, and my kids know, like, I'm like, hey, you know, Mom, I ask the tough questions, you know, so I have all boys, you know, and it would literally be, do we need to have a discussion why it takes an hour to have a shower? Like, you know, and they're like, Mom, you know, and I'm like, hey, you don't want to be up in your business. But that's how they were raised. And
I'm dying for them, Melissa. I'm dying for them.
We're 3 showers a day.
I'm the mom. So like Danny Silk, I don't know if you know who Danny Silk is from.
Yeah, I've read his books. Yeah.
Okay, so he actually had a series on YouTube all around the topic of masturbation and all of the effects and how it affects your sex life and the whole 9 yards. And like I sat down and like made my boys watch it with us. Like, we're going to talk about this, you know. So by the time they were that age, we were already like, that was like no big deal to them. They're like, yeah, this is Mom, you know. Okay, so we're going to talk about this now. So that it wasn't a big deal. It's not like I never had these conversations. We had these kinds of conversations literally, you know, from the time you start conversing with your, I mean, obviously I'm not talking about masturbation with a toddler, but, you know, age appropriate that they could conceive hard conversations, you know, why we don't steal that Snickers bar at the counter. Those are not free, you know, type of a thing.
If your sons grow up to be stand-up comedians because they have issues, I'm just...
Yeah, my youngest does occasionally be like, maybe I should be a comedian. And I'm like, maybe.
Wow.
I think it's so important. I have 3 boys. My oldest is almost 20 and my youngest is 11. And I think what's so important is I'm much like Melissa. I parent very much the same way. I'm very open with my boys. And I think it's so important, especially in this day and age, because there's so many pressures that they are getting from their peers and social media. And it's so much different than what we grew up with. There's all these added pressures. And I think it's so important to have those tough conversations and just affirm who they are and their identities. And so that's one thing that's been really important for me is during our devotion time at night, I just sit down and I talk to them about who God says that they are. And actually just recently I wrote out prophetic words for all three of my children and my
I love that.
and I had my boys read them because I'm like, that's who God says that you are. And so I feel like when they're more confident in their identities, that's where those moments of pressure, they will have more of a foundation to stand on, be so much more secure in who God says that they are, where they can turn away from those things. And I think they naturally gravitate to other children that have those same moral compasses. At least my boys have just naturally gravitated to really good kids.
And I love that. My youngest daughter was very, very sick when she was born, and she's a walking miracle today. But the doctors did not predict a bright future for her mentally, physically. And so from the time, it's funny that you bring that up. I have these little pieces of paper, and just this morning, and since she was about 3, these are declarations that she and I read out loud, and she reads them about herself. I overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of my testimony. I am not moved by what I see. I walk by faith and not by sight. I can do anything God says is, and it's like, I am the head. I can do all things. And it's even specific, like my enzymes and chemical balances are perfect. So she was like 3 years old, 4 years old. And they said she was going to have a speech problem. And I was like, I'm going to teach her how to talk with the word of God. And so I believe there's such power. And even as I was struggling in my own faith journey, reading these little things with my daughter,
so good.
It's like, I need to believe. We just had a recent scare with my mother, who's a cancer survivor. And they had just yesterday had to do some blood tests, and we were waiting for the results. And this morning we didn't know what the results were. And she's like, my enzymes are perfect. My cells are full of life. I'm full of abundant life. And then my mom calls and said her tests were normal. But it was like God speaking to me through these little declarations and getting that power, that word of God power in their brain. Is that's what I was saying to Lucy. You got to pair up with the guy that has that. She goes to a Christian school. They're really spirit filled. They pray for the sick. They have healings. They have miracles. Wow. And she has a crush on somebody who's not a Christian. And I said, the guys that you go to school with are powerful prayer warriors. Yeah, Mom, they're jerks. And I was like, I don't care. Like, they, as you grow older, you're going to realize that that's really what you want and what you need. I know this guy that you like has a cool hair. I admit it. He's gorgeous. I know this. And I was like, and having girls is different, guys, because girls are so dramatic. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just like, oh, I hope it works out. She's like, well, I've just decided that my one goal in life is to find my soulmate and not die alone and penniless. And I was like, yeah, that's probably what you should be worrying about at 12.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm so thankful that I've had boys. So thankful I've had boys. Like, concern, our biggest concern is like, did you really brush your teeth today? You really did.
I know. In my mind, like, did you use toothpaste? Did you ever have to ask that question when did you use toothpaste?
Right.
Did you use water?
Yeah, right.
When you bathed, did you wash your entire body, or was it a suggestion?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the hygiene thing in boys, that is definitely the biggest challenge.
It's girls too. My 9-year-old just thinks like a shower is like a metaphor for getting in the water.
Yeah, it's a nuisance.
But she's really into makeup. My 9-year-old's really into makeup, and so when I went to do my makeup, it looked like there had been a war paint, like a crime scene. And her face just looked like she was going off to battle this morning. Like, I don't know what kind of Vogue magazine she was reading.
Well, before you came on here, Kerri, we were talking about, because Melissa was doing her makeup, that we need to have someone on the show to do a makeup tutorial for us. That's showing us how to do our makeup. Maybe your daughter would like to do that.
Yeah, she's very gifted. A lot of glitter all over.
Yeah, my 1 minute makeup, my lip gloss, and my mascara. I'm here in the camera going, oh my God, I'm doing my mascara on. She's like, maybe we should have a makeup tutorial. Like, am I not doing this right?
Oh my gosh, so fun. Wow. So we have, a lot of women in this group, Kerri. I know that you're in it, and we're kind of going after the different spheres, and media and arts and entertainment is definitely one of those. So what are some kind of words of wisdom or some encouragement for those ladies that really are feeling called into the industry? Something the Lord has been telling me is it's Hollywood and beyond now, because Hollywood is looking a lot different right now. People want to go to Hollywood, but Hollywood is not really a happening place right now. So we need to expand our tent pegs and think bigger than just getting to a place, but actually take it into where you are living. So how could you speak
there's two women to address. First of all, I will address the women that maybe or maybe not, they care about Hollywood, they care about their families, they care about the future of entertainment, and they're not performers. So my word to you guys is that you have power. You have power, and you need to stop watching 50 Shades of Grey when nobody's watching. Like, do you know what I'm saying? You need to stop watching Game of Thrones and all that crap, because the Nielsen ratings know what you're watching in your bedroom when you don't think anybody else is watching, and they're making money off of you. So not only are you hurting the kingdom, not only are you hurting the atmosphere of your house, not only are you hurting yourself, you're hurting what you say that you stand for on Sunday morning in church and you say amen about, but then when you go home and you watch that disgusting trash, you're telling the Hollywood executives, make more. Like, make more horror movies, make more Game of Thrones, make more violent, make more sexually explicit. And they think that it's not a big deal because I just watch, my thing used to be, if it was a movie that I would never watch, and sometimes it would come on an airplane, I'd be like, well, God, I'm in the sky. I don't know that this counts if I watch this movie. It's edited. But you know what? It still is like a click that somebody clicked on that. There's always that fine line. So that's a whole nother discussion. But don't give in to garbage if you want to see change, because you are the change. You are the change. You be the change. And I'm not saying you have to watch Hallmark all the time, except that I do work for them and I'm happy. But it's like just like find something that you like and support it, and so there's that. And then the women that want to perform, or the children, they have children that want to perform. I really am very passionate about being good at your craft. It's not a destination. It's not like I have a YouTube channel and then all of a sudden I can do an hour of stand-up comedy live. Because these comedy clubs back in the day, they would book these funny people on YouTube for a live show. Well, they didn't have the craft to back up what all the editing and the video technology did for them. If you want to write, take a writing class. I mean, I had a kid call me back years ago and he said, can I have your agent's number? I'm moving to LA. I want to be an actor. I'm an actor. I go, oh, where have you trained? He goes, I haven't, but I know all my emotions. So if you tell me to be sad, I can be sad. I was like, well, I'm sad right now talking to you because this is ridiculous. But I think it's kind of like, I want to be a doctor, but I don't want to go to med school. I just think I'm going to, just believe that God's going to bless me because I have the desire. But you got to put the work. You guys all know that, it's work to do your show. It's work to have your Facebook. It's work. It's work. It's work. I had to get on stage 100 times in open mics and horrible things to make sure that I was good enough for somebody to pay me. It's not about, and from a technology standpoint, about YouTube, I just want to say this. Everything on YouTube, hold on, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Everything on YouTube is viewership for the rest of eternity. You have to be extremely careful what you put out there to the universe. I'm not even just talking about kids. If it's not something that you are proud of and will be proud of 10 years from now, do not put it out on the internet for all the world to see, because that is representation. When they go to book you for the Tonight Show, or they go to book you for something, they're going to search your internet history, and anything that is not craft quality will come up. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. So be good at the craft, and you can find people that are doing what you want to do in your hometown and ask them, if you can be mentored by them, say, I will make the popcorn, I'll move the chairs, I will follow you to your live events, I will help you, with your art craft supplies or whatever it is you want to do. Find somebody who's better at you than what you want to do and see how they're doing it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I know for my daughter, she started taking voice lessons at 5 and, did that for 5 years until she said, Mom, I need a break. And I said, well, take a break, because it was just so much. I mean, she had like constant voice, then production, then theater. And so now she's in another theater show, but it's one day. But it's about, people think they're just going to arrive without putting the work. And we know it's 95% hard work, 5% inspiration.
And Julie, honestly, from a Broadway perspective, just make sure she can sing, because that's the main thing that they care about in Broadway. Like my friends that are on Broadway and winning Tonys are because they can sing. Yeah. And you get 16 bars, like show her the movie Chorus Line, because it's very real. You get there and they're like, blonde, we don't want it. Okay, brunette, we don't want it. Okay. And then when you finally get there, you've typed in, you've got 16 bars. And singing is here, and then dancing, and then acting. Right. And so, and I didn't know that until I was making that decision. I'd been in New York, and I realized that Broadway is all about the music. It's all about the singing. So you have to have the voice quality trained. If she's a mezzo soprano, that she's an excellent, has a great range. Or if she's a belter, it's the singers that are working in Broadway. Yeah. And then if you're a really strong actor, then that's LA. Right. So, well, and Chicago's really strong, in Portland, and there's amazing cities with arts. It's not all about LA. Like, you can find an artistic community anywhere you are. Yeah. And I really encourage that at any age, to find your tribe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I worked for the music industry for 20 years, Kerri, managing artists, singing artists. Musicality and all of that is definitely key for sure.
And but you can't fake being a good singer, right, Julie?
No, you can't. Unless you lip sing and use someone else's, music.
There you go. Always an ending, right?
Personally, I use my voice as a weapon over my children when they're misbehaving. I sing to them, and they're like, "No, Mom, stop, stick dancing, please."
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my God.
Oh, that's funny. No, that's good. And I think, with especially where we're going, who knows what the industry is going to look like. I think it's going to come more into community-centered artistic expression stuff, more bringing community together, and it not being, okay, you just need to go there to get discovered. Like you said, Kerri, find your theatrical, programming, find your artistic community and tap in there and learn, because that's where it has to start from.
My manager, his name was Bobby Laurel. He was one of my first manager. He said, it takes 99% luck to get there and 99% talent to stay. So once you get that shot, you better be ready.
Right.
And you don't know when that shot is coming. And there's and if that shot doesn't work out, it doesn't mean God doesn't want you to do it. It's a matter of having tenacity. And that's why, Julie, as your daughter gets older, you'll see that. If she's getting more and more tenacious about doing it, it's God, because God is giving her that thick skin to pursue this type of environment. If you're faint of heart and you can't handle rejection, I would not recommend any of these artistic endeavors, because on a daily basis, people are telling you how you are not worthy all the time. And you just have to shrug it off.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think she started saying, Kerri, when we were talking about the rejection, she's like, well, I just thank people if they say something mean to me. I just said, well, thank you. And she's like, because it deflects them. She's like, I know that's not who I am. And so she's just like, okay, whatever.
That's amazing. That's a gift. That's a gift.
Yeah.
I think in so many things, and it just seems to be getting more so and more so. And you're talking about, becoming an expert in your craft and practice and study and all that stuff. Is everybody wants or thinks that it's a suddenly you're famous, and suddenly, just because they became aware of you but they don't realize it took 20 years of working to have a suddenly.
Come on. Yep. Yeah.
You know, and that's the piece that everybody, but the suddenly. Well, it's not actually really a suddenly.
Right.
I've never had a suddenly, ever.
Right. It's just that suddenly they're aware of you.
Yeah.
But there's no such thing as a suddenly. I mean, I shouldn't say there's no such thing. I mean, that obviously there could be. You know, all of a sudden God could like make me funny. But and that would be suddenly. You know, it's a process.
Yeah.
Just that their experience of you suddenly happened.
Right.
Right.
You know what I really like? I really like shows like this where there are people in the public eye that get to come on and be personal and be real. I'm really into podcasts. I love listening to, podcasts and shows because you hear the struggles, you hear, I know the struggles because I'm out here, but other people don't know that, all the photos are Instagram and photoshopped and, A-list celebrities are still worried about losing their hair just like everybody else and feeling like, and so I feel like in the society today of podcasts, people are really vulnerable and real. And it's a great thing that they're just, it's, we can look at it two ways, but I'm going to be positive. And I think vulnerability and, for young people to be like, oh, I'm listening to my favorite actress and she went through an eating disorder or she went through addiction. Like, it's not an easy road. Like, look at what's going on with these kid actors. Look at what's going on with these singers. And then talk to your kids about that and go, see, that's God protecting you right now and keeping you at home until you're 18, you're 22, when you're prepared to go out to the world. There's no reason they have to do it at 15.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I think that's good. Well, I think some parents, I have a couple of friends that are living vicariously through their children.
Oh, yeah.
So they try to push them over to all of this stuff. And the child is really not into it. And my heart breaks for the child because I'm like, you had a chance, but you didn't do what, you were going to be doing. And now you're projecting that onto your child. And it's just sad, the whole child actor syndrome.
Yeah. Well, and it, and I think in a lot of the performing, I grew up as a dancer and a competitive dancer and gymnast and all that other kind of stuff. And there was a significant amount of moms that, you could tell they got their identity. They were getting their identity derived from what their child was doing and pushing their children. And, they had that, I didn't watch it. I saw clips of it on Facebook because I wouldn't watch it, but, they might still have a program that's like basically about stage moms, and they've got their daughters, that are 5 years old that look like, made up prostitutes, go out there and perform and shake your butt for all the pedophiles. But they live vicariously, and so many times I want to shake their heads and I'm like, you're 40. You already got to do your gig, And
I mean, it's so funny because I have this weird dynamic in my house. I was saying to my daughter, my 12-year-old, I go, maybe I should go on, she goes, you should maybe go on TikTok, Mom. And I go, I don't want to go on TikTok. Predators are on TikTok. And she just looks at me till she goes, I don't think you're what the predators are looking for, Mom. I don't think that's really going to be a problem for you. And so I have this voice of conscience. So, I was on TikTok the next day, right? I was like, oh, girl, it's on now. And so it's really funny to be a performer mom and then have performer kids. But then ironically, you have the ones that are like, I want to go to law school. And yet I'm still like the I Love Lucy going, do you want to be in my Facebook video? Do you want to be in my Facebook? So it's funny. But yeah, I go to these auditions. I used to with my kids. And these parents had driven like 2 hours for like a kid sneaker. My kid goes into the Skechers audition. The casting director calls me. She's 4. She goes, I really don't want to come to these things. My mommy makes me go to these auditions. And I was like, never again, Lucy, never again. And she goes, well, I told them that they should hire you. I said, because if they need somebody funny. And the casting director's like, we just love her even more. And I was like, oh, like,
yeah.
But there's so much like crazy rejection. Like Lucy went on auditions for years and years and years and barely, book some whatever. And I'm like, Liz, this is the game. And we sort of evolved out of it. Like she doesn't do it much anymore. And it was just a grind. It was like going out there and smiling and, I want to sell cereal, and then they don't call you, or you get a call back and I have to explain that you didn't have the right hair color or whatever they wanted that day.
Right.
It's a little wonky. I just think it's great for kids to work on their craft. And then when they're older, my parents were smart. They're like, go to college, get some life experience.
Yeah.
I had an offer to sign with like Halle Berry's manager when I was 18 and moved to New York and not go to school. And then ironically, and sad, I said no. And then he ended up on that hashtag Me Too movement. Like it was like years, and it was like God protecting me. God protected me all these years from so many things because I was willing to say, this is another lesson, because I was willing to say no. I think there's a value in valuing yourself and being willing in life, not even just entertainment, that we raise our children, we raise ourselves to say, that is not what God has for me.
Right.
And I'm going to pass. And it may even be a Christian opportunity, but if God is not green lighting it, don't do it.
Amen.
So good.
So good. Yeah.
And even in the non-Christian world, if people could just get that self-worth of, I'm worth more than that. I'm not going to.
But that, Melissa, that comes from great parenting. I really think that you got to thank our parents, or mentors or church leaders or youth leaders that looked you in the eye and said, you're worth it.
Yeah.
You are special. You are, we use words like, anointed, like Rochelle was saying, but they'll remember those words.
Right.
Hopefully.
Identity.
Yeah, and also I did put a tracking device in my daughter's tooth, which she isn't sure.
There you go.
She doesn't know if it's real or not. I'm like, why don't you try it out? Why don't you try to go somewhere where you don't know? I got a tracking device and the Holy Spirit. You want to play? Let's play. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. You don't know.
Right?
Awesome.
She's like sleep with one eye open,
Right? She's got her little camera and her teddy bear watching.
You're like, what's in the bear? What's in the bear? What's in the bear?
Oh my gosh. There's some scary movies with what happens in stuffed animals, right? Oh, let's not go there. Talk about traumatizing.
Oh, yeah, let's not go there.
But I also think that like not sheltering them completely, and as I get older, watching things with them, like I'm letting Lucy watch more mature, like, appropriate shows, but like we're watching Lost, this, when they were on the island, and it's not sexually explicit, but there's like scary stuff or whatever, but it's kind of causing these like discussions because there's a lot of undertones and stuff. So we can't shelter them completely and make them watch Nick Jr. or, Little House on the Prairie forever and ever. So hopefully we're there to have these talks, with them and use them as like lessons or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because they're going to have the talk somewhere.
They are.
And they're going to watch the show somewhere. I went over to my friend's house and watched Stand By Me when my mother said I couldn't, but I watched it anyway.
Right.
River Phoenix, you're not going to turn me away. Hello.
Right? Yeah, definitely. This has been awesome.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely a great way to end the week of late shows.
Well, I hope we learn. I am in no means a parenting expert. I lost my 12-year-old yesterday. I left her at a friend's house and I forgot to pick her up for like 3 hours. And it wasn't until dinner when I figured she was missing from the house. So, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. My sister did the same thing to my niece. So she's got just one single daughter. And, I tried to steal her as my own, but this was years ago, but she was a very well-known, like international champion, horse trainer, all that kind of stuff, and was at a competition, a horse show, and left my niece in her playpen at the rodeo grounds and driving off. And then later I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, you never should have told me that. Because
you win some, you lose some. That's why God created angels,
Yeah.
Just testing you, Psalm 91. Thank you, Jesus. The Lord protects my dwelling place. Okay.
Yeah. Fortunately, everybody knew her, and they were already. Yeah, I mean, she was surrounded by adults that loved her, but yeah, like nice, sis. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Wow.
But
This
we all have our stories.
So Kerri, as we kind of wind down, how can people find out more about what you're doing? I know you YouTube your name. I mean, you're going to have tons of videos show up. To be able
I spend a lot of time on Facebook, inappropriately long amounts on Facebook and Instagram. So, but if you just put the words Kerri, KERRIPOM anywhere, Instagram or Twitter, I've got a couple books that just came out, and I'm touring. So I try to stay active. You can just put my name in, and I'm around like everywhere.
You are touring.
Oh yeah, well, I'm gonna start touring again in September, but I was touring for 14 years, and then if you're on my Facebook or my Instagram, you'll know about what's going on with me.
Awesome.
Wow. So you're available for like women's kind of ministry
events?
Oh
yeah, it's my heart. I love women's events. I love doing the retreats and sharing the gospel, and then using comedy to do that. So I do a lot of weekends or girls' night outs where they're like, just come in, but we want they don't know the Holy Spirit's coming. Like I just kind of sneak it in at the end and then let God take over. And then people get laughing and healed and saved. And we do altar calls at my shows, and just whatever God's going to do. So I love doing women's events. And
awesome.
Now my wheels are turning. So yeah.
Yeah. Girl, I need to pay for my mortgage. So call me.
Right.
I'm very affordable. I'm very affordable these days.
No, yeah, definitely got my wheels turning. Awesome.
And I've been to, are you guys all from Oregon or just Julie?
No, I moved to Texas in 2010. I'm born and raised California, but I moved to Texas in 2010. So
what part of Texas?
I'm in a town called College Station. So I
know College. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's
do you know Gateway Church?
Gateway up in Dallas.
Yeah. Well, they have campuses all over, right, yeah. I probably go to Texas 6 times a year because there's so many women's ministries, like Houston, Dallas, I did 4th of July in the middle of Texas on the back of a flatbed truck with 100. I don't even know where I was. I mean, I think I had to parachute into that town. I don't think they had an airport. I mean, the fireflies were coming. The Spanish ministry was making carne asada. I'm out there with the microphone, 108 degrees, just trying to tell jokes.
That's awesome.
And Rochelle, where are you?
I am from Oregon, but I'm living in Florida now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, those are all awesome places. So just call me.
Yeah, for sure. I'll follow you and keep track of you. See when you're going to be in Texas. And then actually when we roll out our women's event, I think it would be a blast.
I would be honored. Yes. I'd be honored.
So fun.
Definitely.
What you're doing.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on and pouring in and just having conversation with us. And
I really enjoy your show. So keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Thank you. We're having fun.
I got to go find my kids because I don't really know where they are. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.